Blog Talk Radio. Today we have an old friend of mine I see practically every week down at the Missouri Lounge for the last 15 years. I've known this guy. He's the one that films all the acts down at the open mics for the open mic documentary that he puts up on Community Access TV and on YouTube and all over the place. Hello, Salam. How are you today?
Good, girl, George. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm just fine. You know, I used to do that myself. I used to have a Community Access TV show.
I know. It's not. I've seen some of your shows with Pearl Harbor. That was pretty cool.
Yeah,
and
I love that one.
Do you have the tubes on, too, or just Pearl Harbor?
No, I had Pearl Harbor and the Explosions. I've had Blue Chair. I had Roy Loney and the Phantom Movers. And
the people
Mike
that I film are pretty much unknowns. Who?
Well, I just had friends on. Those are the people I worked with back in North Beach. J.C. Burris. He was Sonny Terry's nephew, and he played harmonica.
You know what? I
too.
recorded J.C. Burris. He's a big guy, right?
I've got video of him. I've got video of him up there on YouTube.
He's a big guy singer, right?
He's dead. He's been dead for quite a while.
But he's a big, large man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I recorded him. He was actually from Stockton when I first was recording at the recording studio at Freeway Records on East 14th Street in Oakland. He was in a band called The Ninth Creation.
What year was this?
This was, I'd say it's 1975.
Yeah, that's when he was on my show. He was on my show at about 1970.
Like 76 maybe, but 75, 76. He was in a band called The Ninth Creation. And at the time, one of the reasons that they came in there was a guy named Brent Dangerfield was recording there. And he recorded and produced the first three Santana albums, which he always got residuals for. So, he was pretty famous, and I learned, some recording techniques from him. But, yeah. I brought in Eddie Money. I recorded the first tapes for Eddie Money that they went to CBS, and Bill Graham became his manager, and the rest was history after that. And I recorded the Tower of Power horn section with Frank Bonner in the night shift. We had a contest when I first got there, and I didn't know how to record. I was the promotion guy for the studio. We had a radio show that was in KRE in Berkeley, and there was a group of black guys, a company that was doing fashion shows, and they wanted to have their radio shows fashion, but they couldn't produce the tapes, so we produced the tapes and came up with the idea of having a contest, to give away some recording time at Freeway, and we brought in people like Frankie Beverly and Mays. They became huge. Frank Beiner, of course, who wrote a bunch of stuff with Doctor and Tower Power, but when he came into the studio, the Tower Horns came in and backed him up, and of course Eddie Money, and Earthquake, which was a big band in the East Bay. They had a record label called Berserkly Records, which they were big locally at a time that Eddie was just starting off, and They on their label they had Greg Kinn, and Greg Kinn was one of the first people I saw when I went to UC Berkeley. Him and Robbie Dunbar, who was the guitar player for Earthquake, were sitting out on Sproul Plaza, and they were doing that Lou Reed song, Sweet Jane. I mean, at the time I didn't know what the song was. I just thought, wow, that's pretty cool. Those guys are playing through a little pig nose amplifier. Robbie was, and then Greg was just strumming his guitar, but he was the singer on that, and it was just a lot of stuff happened. I worked with Huey Lewis when he was in Clover, which was a band out of the North Bay, up in Cloverdale, I think, or something like that, somewhere around there, and a bunch of funky bands. I worked with Confunction, which was a local funk band. I mean, this was during the 70s. You have to realize, funk was kind of in, disco was there, and it was right. 79, 78 was when the punk started invading Mabuhay Gardens. But so, yeah,
No, that started about
you mean the crack one?
77. 77 was when Mabuhay started.
Right. Well, that's when Eddie's first album came out, September '77, and it's right about that time the Fab Mab was coming into existence. As a matter of fact, the guy that owned the Mabuhay Gardens turned us on to Brent Dangerfield because he was a friend of Brent's, but Brent overindulged. But the guy who owned Freeway, or the majority percentage in that, was also Filipino. So, just like he knew that guy, and that guy came over and said, hey, I got this guy. He's a great recording engineer. He's got a few little shaky issues, but he could be great for you. So that's how Brent ended up at Freeway, recording the Ninth Creation, essentially. And Brent was famous. He recorded Earthquake, too. I brought in Eddie Money. He was a friend of mine. I would just go out and kind of go on the scene, kind of like I'm doing right now with the filming, except for I was much younger, and I was hanging out with the guys and trying to help them along with their career by recording a few demos for them. Because back in the day, getting a demo, having something on a record was a really big deal. Because, they didn't have, right now you make your own CD at home, blah, blah, blah. I mean, you had to be in an official studio to do something like that. So I was out and about, just kind of checking out people. And some of the stuff that I got paid with was obviously recording time at the studio. So I got, lunch money and some recording time. So I would record people for the studio, and then I would search around and, I put on a couple of productions, one at Mills College for Mother's Day, which I, got a couple $1,000 for, and put it into recording time, and, recorded some of these guys. But a lot of people, after, I forgot Yesterday and Today. I recorded Yesterday and Today there. I recorded a tape for them, which eventually came out as, lost tapes or something from the vault. And they didn't even put my name on it. They said, "Oh, I'm the unknown engineer." But Leonard knows. He's the drummer for the band. He was telling me about it. But he told me that tape that we made in 77, maybe it was 78, 79, probably 79, that went to the major labels, and that was their first deal. And and they're still traveling the world in that metal kind of way. Leonard has his own band, but Y&T is still around. And another band that I recorded from Hayward, I recorded a bunch of rock bands from Hayward. Another one was Mile High, which turned into 415, which was a local rocker band. I loved those guys. They were young. Well, we were all young, but Y&T was just right out of high school, and I think Mile High was even younger than them. I think Y&T was out of high school a couple of years, and Mile High was maybe out of high school 1 year, and but they drew a lot of excitement, and I was just trying to help them be involved with it, because even though I'm a musician myself, it's taken a long time for me to go, hey, I'm pretty good. Why should I be supporting all these other people who aren't as good as me? That's not saying I'm better than Eddie Money or any of those guys, but I mean, a lot of the people that we recorded, they were mediocre, and it's only been recently, probably since the start, or a little bit before the open mic documentary, that I got up on stage and started either playing my own stuff or singing, playing piano. And then I, started branching out, and a friend of mine from the recording studio died kind of I don't know, I mean, he was scuba diving at the bottom of the Monterey Bay, and he had a heart attack, blah, blah, blah. But it really made me stop and think. It's oh, man, hey, we're not guaranteed any time here on this earth, so you better, get out and do what you're going to do. And so I thought, well, what would we be doing, me and Bob, because he worked at the studio with me, Bob Ferber, and he was recording people. He brought in Cipollina, John Cipollina. He had a jazz band that John was in. John did a lot of stuff, but that's an example of him bringing in people who were his friends, who he thought that they were pretty good and they deserved some recording. Anyway, so I thought, what would we be doing now? And of course, now the thing is that you have YouTube, you have media that's able to stream. So I went out and I got a camera. I think I had a camera. I had just bought a camera. I was going to go out and film some people and see how that was. And my friend died, and I thought, well, let's just turn this into a whole. I'll just go around the entire bay and film people. And I started out in, of course, Starry Plow, and I went down to Missouri, and then I went to the Freight, then I went over to San Francisco, the Hotel Utah, out into near the Golden Gate Park with Cafe International, the Bazaar Cafe out in the Richmond, the Red Devil downtown in the Tenderloin. I even made it over to Marin for the last days of the old Sweetwater. I did a Saturday night, a couple Saturday night open mics, or Saturday afternoon, and then I think it was a Monday night that they had their open mic. So I got all over, and I ended up, having my own, little website with all these different people. And then a friend of mine, a friend of mine and I, Julie Larson, went across the United States to open mics in the summer of 2007, and we were filming, putting some shows together, kind of like open mics across the United States, and we played at all of them. I flew into Chicago, met her there, and then I think I flew out of Kansas City. I really couldn't handle all the road stuff, going from one stop to one stop, so I just, was in and out. But once we got back from that tour, and I had a friend who was also filming at the Freight, and he came in with this really big camera. And I was going, hey, what's going on? He goes, oh, well, you can get this at Berkeley Community Media, if you just go sign up down there. And I said, well, that's for me. So I went and signed up in January of 2008, and they would, loan you a camera. Although the camera that I had was pretty good. This wasn't high def. This was just the old standard 4x3. So I started a show, just putting together our shows of, an open mic someplace, and there's maybe 12, 13 people on it. I get montages I make a couple, 3, 4 montages of still pictures around the room to let you see what it looks like, and, the usual intro and outro credits, and maybe an interview with someone for maybe 10, 12 minutes, cut up into little sections throughout the hour. And we've had people who came all the way from Fremont to the Hotel Utah. I wasn't there. A friend of mine who I put on the show was kind of recognizable. He's what's he called? He's a Pacific Islander. He's kind of short. He's got really long hair and a Fu Manchu. His name's Gigi Tanaka. But if you see him, it's like, you'll recognize him. He's kind of distinguishable. And a great musician and a great singer, too. He's got a really nice big chest, he just puts a lot of air out. Anyway, some people come up to him at the Hotel Utah, and they say, hey, we saw you on TV, and here you are. So
where are you from originally? Where are you from originally?
I'm from the Central Valley. I grew up
Where is the Central Valley? Gilroy?
Modesto, Houston, Turlock, Stockton.
It's hot down there, isn't it?
Oh, it's really hot down there. I tell people I come from Modesto because from 5th grade on, that's where we lived. Before that, we moved around probably every year. I think my mom, who was supporting us, would get different jobs at different hospitals, so we'd have to move. But eventually,
she
got a job. Huh?
She was a nurse?
She's a lab technician, which means she has a degree in microbiology, and they bring the blood to her or whatever, and she does whatever they do in labs.
What about your father? What about your father?
He lived in San Francisco with his second wife, and he worked for the city of San Francisco inspecting restaurants. But he wasn't with me since I was in 2nd grade when they were divorced. So I might have seen him like once a year, something like that.
So how many kids are there on your mother's side?
Well, there are me, my sister Mary, and my brother Robert. And
what about your father's side?
Oh,
Did he have more kids?
I don't know. Actually, neither my father nor my mother had siblings. They were only children. My mother was from
did
San
he have
Francisco.
kids by his second wife? Did he have more kids by his second wife?
No, he didn't have children by his second wife.
Oh, so you just had those kids.
Yeah,
so how did you end up back up here in the Bay Area?
Well, after I got out of high school, I decided I was going to go to the University of California, Berkeley, and study electrical engineering. My mother went there, so she was very proud of being a Phi Beta Kappa, which is very impressive. You know, that means like your grade point average is like 3.85 or something back when it was only 4.0 scale. And it's a academic society that you're invited to be in, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, she thought that I'd be a good electrical engineer, and you know, I went to school there. My very last year, I joined a fraternity, and this was before fraternities. They were out because of the 60s, you know what I'm saying? It was very uncool to be in a fraternity. And when I came back in, we actually had more people who were pledges, that means initiates, than there were, you know, active members. So it was pretty cool then. I think it's gone downhill, really. You know, it's gone back to the Animal House days. But when I was a senior and we, you know, when I was a Kappa Sigma there, it was pretty mellow, you know. Everybody, I mean, we went to school and everything. And but eventually I went back to school. So, and after that, that's when I worked at the recording studio. I worked as an electrical engineer for a while, went back, did the recording studio thing for about 5 years, and then just kind of dropped out. You know, I mean, there was
How old
there
were
was no
you when
money.
you started playing? How old were you when you started playing an instrument?
I was 10 or 11 because
what was it?
It was a Sears Silvertone acoustic
What's that?
guitar.
Keyboard? Oh, you started with
it's
guitar.
Yeah, guitar's my main instrument. I play keyboard now because, I mean, they both have different feels. You know, some songs are better on guitar, some songs are better on keyboard. But, you know, there's just so many people who play guitars, and thousands of them are better than I ever aspired to be.
It's easier to carry. It's easier to carry.
Right, yeah. Well, I think that's initially why so many people got guitars, because hauling around to B3 or something like that, you know, you need 3 or 4 people to do that. But these days, all those instruments are, you know, very light, or generally, you know, I mean, you can get just a keyboard and plug it into an amp and you sound fine. But I started playing, my first band or duo was with a buddy of mine who was down the street. He was in 5th grade, I was in 6th grade, and the Beatles had been out maybe a year or so, and we went and saw Hard Day's Night, and the movie Hard Day's Night just like
they did it
like
for
totally,
a lot of people.
It did it for me. I remember going and seeing that, and we couldn't even. They had to shut down the film because all the kids were screaming. We thought that's what we were supposed to be doing. The lights went on, and we were screaming at this film. And the owner came out. She was a woman, and she says, "We're not going to show this movie to you guys unless you be quiet." You know, so we calmed down. And I remember I was with a group of guys, and people are always pulling pranks on you, and someone tripped me. And I had a full glass of Coke. Oh, and it went down the back of this girl in the front row in front of us, and I was like, "Oh my God!" But as soon as that movie was over, I mean, I had so much energy. I couldn't walk home. I was literally, I remember skipping home. I was just like, da, 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 you know. And after that, we formed some, I formed a real duo with my friend. He was, you know, he was actually a better guitar player, and he had, you know, better equipment than me. He had a Gibson 335, 333 or something, 330. And his amp wasn't that good. Huh?
330 Gibson.
Yeah, that's what he had. He had
have
a
that
long
bar
330.
in the middle. It doesn't have a bar inside, so it doesn't weigh as much. The 335 has a wooden thing inside that makes it heavier.
Yeah, I think I've got a 335. But anyway, I started playing with him, and we were like doing, you know, I think the first song that I played with him was "Can't Buy Me Love," and we would both sing, and you know, so I don't know. I thought we sounded pretty close to the Beatles. And then on my musical career, I was in little garage bands for probably till the first year of high school. Then I changed schools. I went from the public high school to the Catholic high school, which was brand new, and there was only like 60 people in the senior class, or they actually just started off like one class at a time. It's like the first year was a freshman, and the next year was a freshman and sophomore. So I was in the lead class, but we didn't have music at the school, and there was actually some people there who were some really good musicians. There was a family in Modesto called the Durr family, and they had like 3-4 guitar players in the family. I mean, just from the oldest brother. And the oldest brother played with a guy named Segarini, who was from Stockton, and Segarini's, you may even know, he wrote a song called Rock and Roll Circus. But Segarini's father owned like what was like a local supermarket at the time, Segarini's. So he was a kid who could do whatever he wanted. Anyway, there was a whole series of guitar players in this band. In this family, and they would pass it on down to the expertise to their younger siblings. And I went to school with a guy named Dennis Durr, who was a fantastic musician. I mean, I remember seeing him in 8th grade in a little trio, just thinking, oh my God, I'd love to be in a band with this guy. And in the back of my mind, that was one of the reasons for going to Central. And the other thing was to play football, because at Modesto High School there was just a lot of big boys there. I mean, they drew from all over. There was like the class was like 1,000 people instead of 60. So I became the quarterback for the very first Central Catholic football team.
We got 4 minutes left. Tell me about your open mic at the Fireside in Alameda.
Okay, well, I've been doing this open mic thing for, like I say, since 2006, really, and the show's been going on since 2008. I filmed a show out of the Fireside about a year and a half ago. I interviewed the owner, did a show. They have a weekly open mic there on Wednesday nights. And they came to me and they said, hey, would you like to host an open mic? And I said, well, that sounds like a lot of work to me. But I said, if you give me a Saturday night, I'll work on that and see what I can do to bring some of my friends from, just around the Bay, just not people in Alameda, but, I have a lot of friends in San Francisco that I'm pretty tight with. So I draw from them and I try to get them to come over and feature or know about it. As a matter of fact, this next one, it's the second Saturday of every month at the Fireside Lounge, 1453 Webster Street in Alameda. Next month, August 9th, I'm going to have the host of the Hotel Utah open mic as the feature, Brendan Getzell, and he's got some great stuff. He plays keyboard. I mean, he plays keyboard. I dabble in keyboard. He really plays keyboard, and he's got some great songs, a couple which I've covered, and he's just got a lot of energy. I filmed him over
at
the
what channels are your TV shows on? What cities and what channels?
The main, here's two. One is youtube.com/live@the-fireside, one word. The main one is youtube.com/open mic, MIC, documentary, one word, and that covers a whole bunch of things. But I have ones like Live at the Freight, Live at the Utah, Hotel Utah. So those.
No, I mean, what cities does the TV show in?
The TV show plays in Berkeley, Alameda, and 8 cities between Alameda and Fremont, Hayward, San Leandro. It's all on the Comcast system there. So it plays, and it has played in San Francisco too, and it will play again, but I need to get a sponsor, which means somebody who actually lives there to say, hey, yeah, we'll sign up for you and we'll put this. We played it there for 6 months and they loved it because, I mean, I don't know. It's a very good show. It's about, there are people, upcoming musicians, and I'm curating all the people
and
there.
And it's called the Open Mic Documentary, right?
The Open Mic Documentary, that's correct.
Okay, pronounce your name. I can't pronounce it.
Critchlow. Edward Slim Critchlow. Critchlow.
Okay, so they can find you on Facebook. They can find you on YouTube. Look for you. This is the Girl George and the Dragons Radio Show. Saying, see you later, alligator.
Thanks a lot, George.